Hello everyone, welcome to the first lecture of this course. I'm Dr. Fahim Kabir Manjurul Haq. I'm a assistant professor of the microbiology program in this department, and I'll be the course instructor of this course. Anyway, let's start. So first, we should know, we are studying fermentation and industrial biotechnology, so it's important that we understand the definition. So what is actually biotechnology? Okay, so it is the use and modification of living organisms or their products for commercial purposes. We produce commercially important products using biological technology, and in doing so we can use a whole living organism, such as we can use a microbacteria, we can use yeast, or we can use a modified whole organism. Or sometimes we actually don't use the whole organism, rather we use their products. For example, we use the enzymes, their metabolites, etc. Okay, so anyway, one broad definition of biotechnology was given at a conference, a United Nations conference on biological diversity in 1992, as like this: any technological application that uses biological systems, living organisms, or derivatives thereof to make or modify products or process for a specific use. Okay. Anyway, so biotechnology itself is actually broad field. It's cover many different fields. So usually in practical field, they are subdivided into various other fields. For example, microbial biotechnology, agricultural biotechnology, animal biotechnology, forensic biotechnology, bioremediation, aquatic biotechnology, medical biotechnology, regulatory biotechnology. Actually, you can subdivide it in the biotechnology into some other fields too. Okay, so there are some tools that are used in biotechnology. Okay, so if we categorize those tools, basically they will fall into two categories. One is bioprocess technology, and another tool is genetic engineering. Okay, so what is bioprocess technology? It is the use of whole living cells or components of them to manufacture desired products. The whole cells can be yeast or bacteria. Okay, sometimes we can use the products of these whole cells, enzymes, uh, hormones, etc. Okay, and these two, the whole cells and the components, they are most commonly used. However, sometimes cells, uh, animal cells, and also plant cells are used to produce desired commercial valuable products. Okay. Okay, so another tools of biotechnology is genetic engineering. We actually know what genetic engineering means: to genetically modify an organisms. Okay, so the technique of genetic engineering, they refers to the techniques of removing, modifying, or adding genes to a DNA molecule to change the information it contains. More specifically, it's actually called recombinant DNA technology. Okay, and the organisms that we produced or modified by recombinant DNA technology is called GMO, genetically modified organism. Okay, so usually whenever we heard, nowadays it's like that. Whenever we heard GMO, uh, I mean actually we think about the food, genetically modified food. But fact is, okay, it's actually, the general thinking. But if we think scientifically or more specifically, GMO refers to the any organisms which has been genetically modified. Okay, such as, for example, insulin. Nowadays insulin is produced by E. coli. E. coli itself don't produce insulin, but we can genetically modify E. coli. If I say more specifically, we can insert the insulin producing gene into the E. coli. Okay, then this modified E. coli, which is all it should be, we should call it GMO E. coli, genetically modified E. coli. Anyway, so then this GMO E. coli will produce insulin. Okay, so these are the two tools of biotechnology, bioprocess technology, and genetic engineering. Okay, so next, Now I'll talk about some practical applications of biotechnology. Have many applications. Okay, applications for in the agriculture, medical or healthcare application. It has application in the chemical and environmental fields. Okay, such as in agriculture applications. Example can be to produce or make better crops, improved animal health. In case of medical and healthcare applications, you can like invent new tests, procedures, new vaccine, medicine, and in case of chemical and environmental applications, to make some uh, better manufacturing process or develop a better manufacturing process, improved consumer products, etc. Okay, in the next few slides, I'll talk about these applications in little bit more details. Okay, so first let's start with practical applications of biotechnology in agriculture. Okay, so in agriculture, the major application is to improve the crops. So here, improve the crop means such as, for example, maize. Okay, so you can genetically, if you can genetically modify the maize, that it will give more yields. Okay, for example, paddy. Maybe in 1 acre it gives like how can I say, like 40 kilos. So if you can genetically modify it in a way that in 1 acre it will produce 80 kilos, 80 kilograms. Okay, it's an improvement, right? So we can do it by biotechnology. Okay, we have to change the genetics of that crop in a way that its yield should be increased. Also, actually, we can improve the crops yield by by modifying them in a way, or by inserting genes into their genome that so that they become resistant to harsh environment. So, for example, in very dry condition, in high heat or cold temperature. For example, one research is actually going for a long time in Bangladesh. It's about it's like uh, inventing a paddy strain which can grow in the salinity water, right? Especially in the south part of Bangladesh, the salinity is a big problem there. So if you can, invent crops, it can be paddy, wheat, or whatever, which can grow there, it will be a great invention, right? So we can use those unused high salinity fields there. Okay. Okay. Also, we can modify a plant which will be resistant towards some disease or insect. Okay, so these will be great. Okay. So these are some practical applications of biotechnology in agricultural field. Okay, so now practical applications in animal health improvement. How we can do that? By inventing better detection method for the disease, by producing highly nutritious animal feed, okay, producing more effective vaccines, improve treatments for the animals. All these things will help to improve the animal health. Okay, so some okay. So now applications in medical and healthcare applications. Okay, there are actually a lot like invention of new diagnostics kits. So, for example, in this is a COVID-19 era now, right? So many people are trying to invent some rapid detection kits. Say some guys are trying to uh, invent rapid detection kits using antibody. I mean, they will uh, detect the antibody within like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, quick methods. Even some people are trying to detect the RNA of the COVID-19 very rapidly. Okay, so by using biotechnology, you can do that. Okay, and also like you can uh, invent new treatments, better treatments for various diseases or conditions. Okay, so now application in chemical and environmental field. Okay, so you can produce enzymes by using biotechnology, uh, which has various industrial application. For example, enzymes used in laundry detergents. Okay, enzymes used in the leather technology. Okay, so to remove the hairs of the leathers. Okay, so we can use genetically modified microorganisms which can break down the industrial waste, which will help to treat the effluent before we discharge them in the environment. Environmentally beneficial things, right? Okay. So these are some applications. Basically, these are not the only applications of biotechnology. There are thousands of other applications of biotechnology. Okay. So I think eventually you will learn about all those things. Anyway, so let's go back to some definitions. Okay, so what is industrial biotechnology? It can be defined as like this: the study of large scale and profit motivated production of microorganisms or their products for direct use or as inputs in the manufacture of other goods. Okay, so nowadays industrial biotechnology is actually also known as white biotechnology. I mean, if you just Google it or search in the internet, you will see that people usually call it white biotechnology nowadays. Okay, and it is can be defined this way: that white biotechnology is the modern use and application of biotechnology for the sustainable processing and production of chemicals, materials, and fuels. Basically, nowadays, I mean, the biotechnologists they are trying to invent some sustainable process. So this, please keep this in your mind. The sustainable things is very important in the industry, right? I mean, you can just invent a technology, okay, which has very, suppose you invented a technology which has very high yield, okay, high production rate, but the technology is not sustainable, okay, it's actually will not do any good. So you need to invent a technology which is sustainable, okay, and also more efficient in context of yield than the current techniques. Okay, this is important. It should be sustainable and it should be more efficient. Okay. So, what are the impact of industrial biotechnology? Basically, in actually, industrial biotechnology, it has many beneficial things in our nature, right? So, for example, environmental benefits. What kind of environmental benefits we can get by using industrial biotechnology? So the biotechnological process are efficient users of raw materials, creating little end waste products, which itself can be often used as input into the further biological process. So let me try to I'll try to give one example. So there are many how can I say? There are many raw materials which we cannot actually use to produce any good product. But if you can if you can develop a biotechnology in which you can use these low quality raw materials to produce something which is better quality, it will be great, right? Okay, and also like the waste. I mean, in industry, many different kind of wastes are produced, which are very harmful for the environment. So, if you can develop a biotechnological technique which will break down this waste, degrade this waste. So, it will be great, right? We can just I mean treat those waste before we discharge them to the in the environment. Okay, and also some other impacts like moving from chemical to biological processes. I mean, nowadays there are many chemical processes. I mean, chemical processes to produce things, but using chemical processes has many problems. One example can be, I mean, usually the chemical processes they produce lots of carbon dioxide, and carbon dioxide is bad. It's a greenhouse gas, right? I mean, too much carbon dioxide is is causing global warming, right? So, if we can if we can invent a biological system or biological process, so to produce something, okay, so which is being produced in a chemical process nowadays, we can actually reduce the production of carbon dioxide, which will eventually benefit our environment. Okay, and also, there are actually many economical benefits of using industrial biotechnology. How? By using biotechnology, we can introduce more efficient, less energy intensive processes. We can invent a process which is more efficient in context of yield and need less energy. Okay, so it will definitely offer us uh, economical benefits, right? Okay, so for example, like uh, say molasses. You know the molasses? I think you all know molasses. Okay, if you don't know, please Google it. The molasses is actually the remaining of the sugar cane. After you extract the juice from the sugars, the remaining those greenish white-like things. Okay, those are actually molasses. So, if you think, those molasses, what we can do? We cannot directly eat molasses, right? Maybe we just have to throw them. But using biotechnology and fermentation technology, we can convert this molasses into alcohol, which is actually widely done throughout the world. So, using biotechnology, we are converting a economically invaluable things, the molasses, into a very valuable things, alcohol. Right? So, it will give us a very big or good economical benefit. Okay. So, anyway, I mean, please keep one thing in your mind that biotechnology technologies themselves cannot do everything. In the industry, right? So usually, I mean, biotechnology itself is a multidisciplinary subject actually, and also in the industrial setup. Suppose after graduating you are doing job in a industrial biotechnology related, related plant. So basically, you have to work in a multidisciplinary environment. You have to work in collaboration with people from various different backgrounds, such as you have to work with chemical or production engineers, with microbiologists, biochemists, economists, lawyers, market experts, etc., etc., etc. So you have to work in collaboration. Okay, then only then you will be able to fulfill or achieve the purpose of the farm. Okay, so although the biotechnologists have to work in a multidisciplinary working environment, but actually the biotechnologists, they have some key role or central role in that organization. So here I'll talk about I will mention about some of the roles of a biotechnologist in an organization. So such as the selection of organism to be used in the processes. You are a biotechnologist, so you have to choose which my organisms you are going to use. Okay, so what kind of growth media or conditions need to be used? You have to make that decision. Okay, so you choose a microorganism, so you have to also tell that what kind of growth media you have to feed that microorganism, what kind of conditions you need to provide, what pH, what temperature, what aeration, etc. Okay, and also you have to determine, okay, I just said that, you have to determine the environmental conditions for the optimum growth and productivity, like pH, temperature, aeration. Okay, and also not only this, till now you are choosing various things, but once you have choose the organisms, you have choose the optimal conditions, then you will start the process, and you have to actually keep monitoring the process throughout the time, so whether the process is going in the correct direction, without any trouble, without any contamination, and your final product is up to the mark. You actually have to monitor all these things. Okay, and in addition, you also have have to act as the guardian or custody of the organisms. So, for example, what I wanted to mean that you are using a organism to produce something in the industry, but you have to store your original organisms, microorganisms, right? Or so yeah, you have to. I mean, you have to store your original microorganisms. Also, there is another thing, right? Usually in industrial biotechnology, fermentation technology field. So, if say you are using organisms to produce something, okay. So, actually, you always have to produce that organism first. Say, for example, you are using yeast. Yeast is a microorganism. You are using yeast to produce alcohol from molasses. Okay, so this is one process. You will take the molasses, you will put the yeast, and then alcohol will be produced. But before that, actually, you have to produce the yeast itself in large quantity, and you have to store them. So, as a biotechnologist, you have to choose how you will do that, in what condition you will grow your microorganisms, and in what condition you will store them. Also, you will be responsible, or as a biotechnologist, it actually will be your goal to improve that microorganisms or that organisms to increase its yields. Okay, so these are the all things. I mean, as a biotechnologist, you have to keep in your mind. Okay, so that's all for this video lecture. In the next video lecture, we'll talk about the fermentation and their processes. Okay, see you then.